everybody! So, surprise! I have a video for you guys today. I don't know when you will be watching this, but here is a surprise kind of video since you guys didn't know that I was going to be posting one today. I haven't really read that much. I've only read 10 books this year, which is honestly really good for me. I've never read this many books in a year, especially for like personal reading. Yeah, I'm just like super happy, super proud of myself. So yeah, I'm gonna be talking about the favorite books that I read this year, and I'll be doing it in chronological order. So these books are my favorite books. As you can see, there's only 4 books here. So 3 of these books you've actually seen in my monthly vlogs, but this first one you guys haven't seen because this is actually the first book that I read this year. So this is The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Chbosky. I finally learned how to pronounce his last name. So this is one of my favorite books that I read this year. I really enjoyed reading this. And also, this is probably the only book that I've read this year where I just read it in one sitting. It literally like took me a few hours to finish, but I was just, starting to read again, so I'm obviously pretty slow. I was just like shocked that I got through this in one sitting. It was just so good. I was hooked the whole way. This isn't a lighthearted book, so I don't really recommend this for those, I guess, who want to start reading again. It's quite sad and emotional, and there's definitely some trigger warnings that you might want to read upon, because I didn't know that they were going to be talking about some things. I don't know, I really liked it. I also really liked the characters. I found Charlie to be really a lovable character in the book. I did watch the movie first back in like middle school. So yeah, that was pretty long ago, but I remember not really like feeling much about the movie. Like I've mentioned before, I thought it was meh. So yeah, I definitely really liked the book better. So yeah, really like this book. It's so good. If you're in a mood for some emotional kind of like coming of age kind of story, maybe you'd like to give this book a try. But I do suggest you read on the like trigger warnings, content warnings on the book. So yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, I actually rated this book 4 stars. My next favorite book is the Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. This is such a pretty fun book. I love fantasy books. I also really like adventure type of books. So this is definitely like right up my alley. I'm so happy that I finally read this, because I just didn't want to read this because this looked spooky, and I don't like scary spooky stories. I didn't think I was ever going to read this. Thank goodness I did. But that being said, I'm not going to be reading the sequel or the rest of the series. It was a very fun read, but I'm just not that invested or interested in reading more. And that's just because I didn't really find the characters to be like that lovable. I had fun reading this book. I thought the plot was, very interesting. My main issue is definitely just with the characters. I didn't really like any of the characters that much. The only character that I did like was probably the invisible boy and probably another peculiar child, but that's pretty much it. That's why I rated this book like 3.5 stars, I think. I was gonna rate it 4 stars, especially during like the beginning of the book, because I was like, this is pretty cool. Like I haven't read a book like this in such a long time. But yeah, the more that I read, it went like a little like downhill because of the characters. I couldn't understand why they would make this sort of like love interest thing happen, because I just didn't find it necessary. I mean, I understand from like Emma's perspective on why she would like Jacob. Oh, I think you like me because I remind you of my grandfather, but I'm not him. And they even pointed it out, but they still made this thing happen, and I didn't really like that. It just was a bit weird for me. I still count this as like a favorite read of mine in 2021 because I did enjoy reading this. Okay, so this next book is the lowest rated book, I think, that I have right now on my story graph, and that is Lord of the Flies by William Golding. And you might be wondering why this is part of my favorites of 2021 when it's the lowest rated book that I had. That's just because I still enjoyed reading this book. Even though I didn't really like what happened, I still found the book quite interesting and I was very immersed in it. I was just feeling what the characters are feeling and I was just getting so angry. I was just thinking, like, how can these kids think this way? Like, how can, like, they do these stuff? And it's just like, I was just like thinking, like, what the what are you guys doing? I still enjoyed reading this book. I don't think I've felt anything as strongly as I felt while reading this book. I think I rated this book like 2.5 stars just because I didn't like how the book turned out. Read this book if you'd like. I will suggest you read on the trigger warnings and content warnings on the book as well, so you won't get caught off guard on some of the stuff that will happen. So yeah. And then lastly, we have The Art of Hearing Heartbeats by Phillip. I actually just finished reading this last night so I can film this video. Okay, so this book, it's emotional, it's quite sad, and I kid you not, I cried. Not really cried, but I shed some tears reading this book, especially the last third of the book. I guess from like chapter 19 of part 2 onwards till the end is the part where I like cried. It's also a pretty slow-paced kind of book. And also, if you're not a fan of like sickly sweet romantic love stories, like that type of thing, maybe don't read this book because this is very sickly sweet. It's part of my favorites because it made me cry, made me feel for the characters, and it was just my heart. It was just so sad. I didn't expect the story to turn out the way it did because from reading the blurb, I thought this was going to be more of like a mystery type of thing because the blurb is about her basically trying to find her dad because he disappeared all of a sudden. So she was gonna try to find this girl because she found like a letter thing and she was thinking that maybe she would find her dad there or she would like be given a clue as to where her dad would be. And the story just basically talks about her dad. So yeah, I still loved reading this book. Still a better love story than Romeo and Juliet, in my opinion. So yeah, I rated this 4 stars. I was thinking of maybe rating it a little bit lower, but then I was like, no, I think this deserves a 4 star. Yeah, I still have some like things that I don't quite like and didn't really quite understand because if this other girl was like the love of his life, why didn't he just like return to her? Like, why did he marry off to some other person and have kids, then have this other life when he could have just returned? I mean, they did kind of mention like his reasons, but I don't know, like it didn't make sense to me. So anyway, still enjoyed this book. So yeah, that is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you guys would like to share with me your favorite books of 2021, please leave them in the comments down below. So yeah, thank you guys again for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Hope you have a great Christmas and happy holidays. Bye!